So let's go right to the answer for this one, and then I'll explain how I got there. So first of all, there are three court rules that you have to read together. That's 1.108, 2.107, and 2.119. And then the answer is probably, most likely, that the moving party here should have postmarked the motion and brief on May 5th at the very latest, and then the response would have to be postmarked on May 9th. Now, let me show you how I got there in Lexis, which is the same as in Westlaw or even on the free online website. So if we just put in time for service of motion, and then I need to filter by statutes, and then further I need to filter by court rules under sources here. I'm going to go to more and go to just court rules. So 2.119, after we read that for motion practice, there's a subsection that tells us that the moving party has 9 days. It has to be served 9 days before the hearing if by mail, and then the response is due 5 days before the hearing if by mail as well. But there's nothing right here that would make you think you should read that. And these other sections you wouldn't know from just looking at it, but like section 6 or chapter 6 applies to something totally different. Service of process, that seems like it applies, but this really only applies to pleadings. Chapter 5 is a totally different subject as well. This 2.107, that relates to us because it deals with service of pleadings and other documents. We're in the other document category because we're a motion. But anyway, when you get a list like this, it's hard to kind of know where you're at. See how it's all these disparate sections? So I prefer to go right to the document, or right to the source, which is the court rules. And then in the court rules, you then have the table of contents. So here's the table of contents for the Michigan court rules. And whether you're in Westlaw, Lexis, or you're looking at the official website for the state, you can quickly see from all of these chapters here, only the first two apply to our scenario. So then that gives us a finite space to research. We only need to read these catch lines here. And you see this 1.108, computation of time. So that's going to be important. We're going to want to look at that. And then if we look here in chapter 2, 2.107 talks about service and of other documents, so we're going to want to read that. And then of course there's one section just on motion practice, so we're going to want to read that as well. So if we go to 1.108, it tells us that you don't count the day of the event. So the day of our event is the hearing, so we wouldn't count that. So we need 9 days before that, and then 5 days before that. And then 2.107, I'll scroll down here to the relevant part. It says that service is complete at the time of mailing. So not when it's received, but when it's mailed. And then 2.119 gives us the main rule. This is the big stuff. 9 days before the hearing is when the non-moving party should receive it, and 5 days when the responding party should file it. So this is a perfect example of reading several different sections together, and you have to do that with codified law, and using something like the table of contents will give you context for that. Now let's go and look at the calendar and figure out how we came up with our dates. So Court Rule 1.108 said you can't count the day of the event, so that's May 14th. So if we count back 9 days from there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that would be May 5th. And then 5 days back from there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would be May 9th. So that's how we got the 5th and the 9th for the 2 days that the motions are due. So we could show up at the hearing and say, Judge, we just got this hearing, that's why our response was late. I'm sorry, we just got this motion, that's why our response was late. And the judge would for sure forgive us. So anyway, that's how we got to the answer.